What's up guys, this is Cher talking and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'll be making a full review for the Christmas Asellus banner that brings Christmas Asellus, a boss specialist with pierce damage and access to chase mechanics. Then Christmas Sumire, a slash specialist for boss fights with chase mechanics. And then Misty, an AoE attacker for farming with access to multi-elements. For this time we'll be using the new Romancing SaGa universe database, that is rsrs.xiz, and I'm just using a zoom of 150% so that we can see everything in a big picture. So Asellus has 115% dexterity being her main status, and she still has some STR by inheritance, but she does not need, she's a self-sustainable character. Agility is just okay, intelligence is 95 because she can still inherit debuffs. And will is 80, well, much better than her very bad endurance on 60%, love and charisma are on low levels. Now, moving on for her skills, the first one is called Voltage Force 2. On the start of a turn, she grants herself a heat up that will increase damage potential by 20% for the whole fight, can stack a max of 5 times per battle, so by turn 5 you have 100% damage increase. By the end of a turn, she also recovers 2 BP, so she is a character that has 5 BP per turn. The second passive is called Dreamy Rose. When she's attacked, she has a 37% chance to evade any attack. Then, she has a guarantee to chase with Rose Hit every time she attacks with either skills or spells. Rose Hit is an 8-power attack, much like her skill number 1. So, it's much like what you get with Arthur. Arthur, second style, is also a damage dealer made for boss fights. He is very defensive, can self-heal, and he has access to Turbulence Cannon, that every time he attacks, will chase. But Asellus is different. She even has an extra chance to chase with skill number 3 called Rosenstorm. It's a single target attack as well, and before she attacks, she buffs dexterity and agility by 20% because this will be on rank 1, and then she attacks with triple S power. So you always have an 8-power chase, and sometimes you have a triple S power chase. 37% of the time means once every 3 turns on average, so the damage will be good, especially because she self-buffs when using that skill that will increase the damage of the next attacks. Now, the third passive is called S-Sword Finesse, increasing S-Sword's damage by 30% and reduces damage taken by 30% as well. So that's nice because she needs to reduce damage taken, especially from physical, because her endurance is pretty bad. Her will is not much of a problem though, but for recent releases it's not so high. So, 130% damage increase on total by turn 5 and beyond, 37% chance to evade, and 30% damage reduction alongside 5 BP per turn. And 1 guaranteed chase and 37% chance to chase with another attack. For skills we have Rose Pierce. This is a single target attack with 8 power, and well, you will guarantee a chase with 8 power as well. So it's good to remember that on start of the game, Double Crush, a skill that hits 2 times with 8 power, use it to cost 10 BP for characters that only had access to 3 BP. So now we have a character that can do 2 hits of 8 power by only using 2 BP and still gets 5 BP in that turn. So, just to remember how things are changing inside the game. And she even has the extra chance to trigger yet another chase. Well, this is a skill that you'll be using when you don't have enough to use skill number 3. Then we have the second one, called Jingle Divide. This is a full AoE attack with just pierce damage as well, that has 8 power. For the cost, it's a very strong skill, but the problem is that she cannot use this 2 times in a row. She would need to use the Dragon Stance X formation, but that formation does not buff dexterity, so the damage will be limited, and you are much better just trying to use this skill when farming, and especially if you have enemies in the first wave, multiples, and then you use an AoE attack and then a single target attack. But I don't think this character was designed for farming anyway, the damage is very limited. Then the third one is called Rosenstorm, and like we said, it's a single target attack that self-buffs dexterity and agility, but this time you can level up to 99 and it will buff 30% both dexterity and agility. She buffs agility in order to try to evade, but you all know how hard it is to evade right now in the game, since bosses have accuracy buffs every turn. And at least this attack feels very strong, almost close to a 4S attack by self-buffing Dexterity before attacking. But the problem here is that I would much prefer Asellus to have BP gains when attacking. Imagine if she would get 2 BP when attacking. That would be amazing because it will guarantee 7 BP per turn, sometimes even 9, like some characters that we got in the past. But let's say that you open the fight and you use Frozen Storm. Okay, you use it all your BP, then you have 5 on the next turn. You're probably gonna use Rose Spears because it's very cheap, so 2 BP only, you'll be left with just 3. The next turn, you're going to use 2 BP again. That means that you only have 6 by turn 3 and only 9 per turn 4. So you will only be able to use Rose and Stern by command on turn 5 if you choose to keep using Rose Spears. So there's just a little bit of a problem with her cycle. I know, because the damage is already very good, and sometimes you may just think about using normal attacks, maybe, just so that you can use Rosenstern again, but you will be getting some Rosenstern via chase mechanics, so I don't know which strategy will be better, to guarantee a buff sooner, or to just keep doing good damage because Rose Spears for 2 BP is too strong. But either the way you choose to use Asellus in a boss fight, the damage will be very, very high. And the only character that can compete with Asellus is someone that's kind of old now, but is still very strong. The first version of Chooser. Well, he uses guns, and they scale super well. He has a higher endurance, and even higher will, but he does not start with damage reduction on 30%. He actually gets 3 defense ups that will lead to minus 27% damage when you have 3 turns. And he self-buffs his status when attacking. But he uses Claw Ejection, that is an S-power attack that he charges 3 of this attack again to keep using. So both characters benefit from BP generation. Chooser will still do very similar damage to Asellus, and I believe a little higher even to this day. He still has option to use Morale down in between turns, but this decreases his damage output, but if you need extra survivability, this can help. So I believe that for those that have Chooser and wants to save, you can actually just skip, but they do use different weapon types. We don't have that many rapier damage dealers, where you got Henry recently, and he's not that great. Well, he is strong, but he relies on RNG to keep triggering damage block in order to block the enemy damage because he does not have damage reduction. As for Inheritance, well, she does not need any, to be honest. If you want to use her for boss fight, she comes ready. But there are some other utilities that you can get from having other styles. But her first rapier style makes no sense when inheriting skills, because she was more of a tank. From her New Year style, there is Plume Dance that debuffs intelligence of all enemies by 20%, and she does have good enough intelligence. There is also Mirage Step Plus, that is just 3 BP and can debuff intelligence of everyone as well, but just for 15%. She also will get Blooming Rose Plus, that will become an S-power column attack for Slash, and you can actually place her on a Amazon Raid Axe formation and use it 2 times in a row. Well, I don't know if it will be strong to solo, but it's okay. There's also Rising Nova that becomes Rising Nova Plus after upgrading, and it's a single target attack that can buff break bosses so that they will be stopped from self-buffing too much, because this can become dangerous. And she has 5 EP per turn, that means that you can use this every 2 turns always. That's good enough and will stop any boss. She also has that New Year start from New Year style that could be interesting, since it grants her morale up and guard up large for 4 turns, so that you can use this in a battle rotation and switch to Rose Hit and keep using that skill number 1 3 turns and then go back to New Year start, because this also recovers HP. Even if you are limiting a little of her damage by using STR attack instead of Dexterity based, this is a little more defensive to allow her to survive better. And I do believe that's it. The other skills are not important. She does have access to stun for future Kazinsi. This is still easily found in many other sword damage dealers. For some very specific situation, you can also use 100 Lotus because this inflicts instant kill to 2 targets, and she can use this 2 times in a row. And for last, there is Phantom Blade from the Summer style that will allow her to counter and try to buff intelligence. But again, this is something that the other versions of her could already do, and well, none of this is mandatory, it's just to expand the utility of Asellus. She's good as she is, will be a very strong damage dealer with access to evasion and chains attack and extra chains. Will be the strongest rapier user now, but there's just a little bit of a problem with her cycles. So in the end, this Asellus has very good damage for boss fights. She does not need inheritance, comes ready, although she does have more versatility if you have been collecting her styles. If you already have Chooser, well, she's not much better, it's just a little different, but they are side grades. And I believe that her damage is very high right now, guaranteeing a triple S grade, but the game is changing too fast, and since she does not offer any party utility, it may be easier to power creep such character, and I don't know how much time she'll be on the top. But if you're having difficulty with Remembrance, well, she's your best bet. She's the strongest rapier damage dealer right now. Well, the next version of Asellus brings a lot of utility and even party support. She is back on using swords, has a 1 BP skill that can self-recover for more than 1000, has an AoE attack that debuffs STR and Endurance. She also has a single target attack that's not very strong, but will buff everyone's status by 25% and give 1 BP to them as well. She has a version of Scrum Guard that also gives her 2 BP by the end of a turn. She has damage reduction, and she has a passive that allows her to follow up every attack with triple S power and even enter a counter stance. So this feature is kind of a mix of everything she had to offer to this point, and it's a much better style that also does not benefit from the rapier version. It's good because you have Asellus for Slash and Asellus for Rapier, but her future is now taking a detour, and it's much different than the current version. The next style is Sumire, and she is as fragile or even more fragile than Asellus. She has 115% STR, but just 66% Endurance. Although she does have much higher will with 89%. Her agility is also very high on 106%, and the other status won't matter as much, but she does have higher than usual charisma. The first passive is called Energizing Focus, and weak damage increases by 15%, and when landing a weak attack, she recovers 2 BP. Then on the start of a turn, she grants herself a damage block that will last for only that turn and 1 time. She will also enter a stealth stance that has medium effect, but it only lasts for 1 turn, so it will decrease her chance of being attacked, but it will not stack because it only lasts 1 turn. By the end of a turn, if no damage is taken, and during only that turn, she will trigger Ninjutsu Present. That will only happen once in a round, and I will explain more about this in a few. Then the third one is called Sword Finesse. When attacking with swords, damage increases by 30%, and damage is reduced by 30% as well. So she does have access to 45% damage increase when attacking weak targets, will decrease damage taken by 30% to help out with that very bad endurance, and will at least block 1 hit per turn, while also just giving this ninjutsu present if she gets no damage in 1 turn. Moving for our skills, we have Tree Topper Shuriken. That is a row attack with the power for free. That's right, slash and pierce damage, so it's 2 elements. Then we have the second skill called Acceleration Tree. This is a row attack as well, slash and pierce again. Before she attacks, she buffs her own STR by up to 25%, and then she launches an attack. That means that this S power attack will feel more like a double S power attack, with 45% damage increase. Depending on the events, she will be able to solo, but not all of them. But strangely enough, we haven't seen many events where the enemies are aligned in a row, but they will probably come back to, well, show that Sumire is strong. So, you can use her on a Dragon Stance X in order to make this possible, using this skill 2 times. Moving on, we have skill number 3, Ninjutsu Present Swift Blade. This is a single target attack that is also fast, can only be used 3 times per battle, and she will do S power slash damage only. removing the Pierce of the equation. Because Asellus is already a Pierce nuker, they didn't want to make her a Pierce damage dealer to compete with a banner partner. And then after she attacks, she will grant herself Ninjutsu Present. That's exactly the same thing that you get from the passive. But what exactly is this? Ninjutsu Present is the same attack again. That's right. So, when you use this, you will get one permanent chase. Because every time you attack, you trigger it again. Indefinitively. You will be able to stack this 3 times to have 3 chases forever. Not exactly forever. If you get disabled, or if you enter a new wave, it will be removed. So you have to use her together with people that will protect her from being afflicted with ailments. At least her will is not that bad. With 89, you will be able to protect. If you are using Muse, she's the best partner because she will buff her STR and Will on the same time. And sometimes you may need a secondary buffer to help out with that very bad endurance, but depending on boss behavior, she may not need that extra help because of damage block, already decreasing damage from the turn. Well, the first hit will be negated at least. And if you manage to just not get hit in at least one turn, you will have 4 guaranteed chases during that fight, if a fight happens in just one round. So, it's actually very, very strong. It's even stronger than any version of Leon current in the game. When I'm talking about Leon, he is a chase attacker as well, that in the first style started with 1 chase, and then you needed to load other 4 bullets and start doing damage by turn 5. That's right. Then now the latest version of Leon starts with 2 bullets and he needs to waste 3 turns loading, and by turn 4 he's ready to do damage, and very good damage. But there's just one good thing about this Leon as well. He can trigger damage blocks, but he is already on similar scenarios with very bad endurance and a very similar will. But this Leon is cold and blunt damage. Only the first Leon did slash damage and will compete directly with Sumire. You can still inherit that wind bullet, but well, all the other attacks will be based on blunt and ice, so that doesn't really translate into direct power. If you want to use slash, you are better off just using either the first or second Leon that are a little slower. So Sumire is now a very strong damage dealer by that use of chase. And why does she do more damage than Leon? Because Leon chase attack has only D power. Hers have S power. Leon will open with triple S power and then attack 5 times with D power. Now, how does she actually work in a boss fight? You're gonna open with Ninjutsu Present Swift Blade, that will use 10 BP, and recover 5. 2 from the attack itself, and 3 by the end of a turn. Then on the second turn, you're gonna use 3 Topper Shuriken. And this will recover 2 from the attack, 2 from the chase, and 3 by the end of a turn. A total of 7. Then by the start of turn 3, you're gonna use Ninjutsu Present Swift Blade. That will recover 7 BP on total. That means that you'll be left with 9 on the start of turn 4. And here, well, 9 is just too close to 10, right? If you had triggered the end of turn passive where she would give herself another Ninjutsu Present, you may already reach 10 BP on this point. Or if someone else in your party gave her 1 BP, then that means that on turn 4 you could have used the last Ninjutsu Present Swift Blade. That means that by turn 5 she is already on full potential. And on full potential I mean by turn 5 she'll be using Acceleration 3, buffing her STR by 25%, and attacking with this S power attack and chasing 4 times with S power attack. That's very strong. And if you think too much about it, it's much similar to what you get with Chooser as well. I already said Chooser once and I have to mention him again because, look, he buffs all of his status by 5% when he is attacking. Well, if he had enough BP to use Clobber Ejection every single turn, he will always attack once with S power and then chase 3 times with S power as well. That's Sumire without triggering the 4th chase, and he would have buffed his status by 20%. See how close they are here, similarly? But ScherBR is never on full potential without help of BP generation. And now you have Sumire, that has a similar design of having to charge her chases in order to just unleash insane damage by turn 5 onwards. But her damage is better, its chaos better, and well, she is a little limited by being locked in just slash, while ScherBR deals slash and pierce. And also competing with Leon on the same time, they are 2 very important characters in the meta that were used in many different challenges. So if you feel like they are getting old, they are now being replaced by 2 Christmas girls. That's right, and they are good. I have to say that they are good. But, well, ScherBR can replace both in what he does, in a way or another. It's just that they are just using different weapons as well. They will work in different remembrances. But even then, Sumire is stronger than both ScherBR and Leon for just slash damage as soon as she gets ready. But there is at least one another competition, and this one is Mirza. And that's right, Mirza is a very strong damage dealer if you choose him to be one. Remember that the latest Mirza has, okay, 115% STR is good enough. He does have much better endurance and will, and he has these attacks, Silverlight Fangs, that is triple S, and it's not really that strong, right? It's not. But he can inherit from his New Year style Left Fork, that buffs STR in intelligence with each of the 5 hits, reaching 125% STR buff. In this game, you can reach as much as 450% status buff. Of course, status buff decay a lot. Every turn you lose 25% for each buff. But I have been using this Mirza, and he is showcasing insane amount of power, especially if used together with some people that give him BP back. Because if you use left fork on turn 1, and then if you use left fork on turn 3, you're gonna benefit from buffs from turn 1 and use it again on turn 3 for even higher scaling. And I was able to do more than 1 million damage, even reaching close to 2 million damage with just Mirza. And in this case, if you have left fork with Mirza, and if you have people that will give him BP generation, he is unmatched. Not even Sumire can beat Mirza on this type of cycle. And he even has a chance to trigger an AoE heal because of his Silver Hero passive. Now, as for inheritance from her first limited style, there is this skill called Hisatsu Sakura Chaos. This is a fast attack that she will be able to use every turn once she's fully stacked. It's slash and pierce, and it will grant the enemy defense down medium. That decreases their defense by 25%, and this translates into an increase in damage by around 10 to 15% depending on the characters that you are using in your party. If you do have at least 2 buffers in your party, this could be better than just using her native second skill, but the difference is pretty small. You should not care too much about this, but in some situations you could decide to use this one. Some people could say that you can actually use the past version of Sumire with inheritance of that ninjutsu present Swift Blade, but this is not good anymore because she has worse status, but it's not even because of this. She has 0 damage reduction, and she will miss that passive that triggers the 4th chase. The 4th chase increases the damage potential by quite a lot and just makes this idea irrelevant. So for now, Sumire is a very strong damage dealer, but sadly locked into doing slash damage versus enemies that are weak to slash. And if you are already happy with your Leon, with your ScherBR, or even with your Mirza, you can safely skip Sumire. Her damage is too high, and by beating Leon, she deserves to receive an OP grade, but guys, you don't need to have all OP grade units, because now we are leaving a power creep in the meta where many characters will be replaced faster than before. So choose well and decide if you want the character or not. But she is very strong and deserving, at least right now, the grade she will get. Well, Sumire has another style on JP. It got released around May of this year, and it's much more defensive, has Taunt by active skill, also guard up, can still buff STR before attacking, but it's time for colon instead of row, and she has a 13 BP attack, that is just a slash as well, but it boosts her defense by 35%, so you can actually now use this one via back inheritance in the current if you want, after charging all presents, so that she can keep herself much better defensively. She can trigger this every turn to have 3 stacks of defense boost. This fixes the problem of being a little fragile. But, well, it requires having the current one. It also buffs her own will and starts with more BP, so she has less problems when charging her chases, because it still gets 2 BP when attacking weak targets. It seems to be made to just complement the character. The last style is Misty, and she is all about farming, so we should only focus on the agility and intelligence status. Everything else does not matter, even though she does have some goodwill. She has 10% damage increase here, 30% here, 20% here, and 40% here for a total of 100% damage increase, but she does need to land weak attacks and starts the fight with 14 BP. That's right, that's a resume, there's not much else to say. The first skill is called Tree Fall, and it's a single target attack with Pierce and Shadow that is not meant to be used with this version because it's weak, and when you're farming you don't want to use this attack. Then the second skill is Dark Vortex Flash. This is a full AoE attack that costs 8 BP and has S power, that's right, S with only 8, but it will hurt all surviving allies other than herself for 30% of their max HP. But if you are farming, you don't care about this anyway. And 100% damage potential with just S power AoE that can be used twice, it's actually pretty strong. She will be able to solo some content in the game for events, not for story, because she cannot use this 3 times in a row. Slash plus Shadow element does have some clashing, because many enemies that are weak to Shadow are also weak to Slash. But, well, there's many enemies weak to Slash as well, so she will be strong when farming. And recent events have been all over the place with enemies not aligned in a row or in a column, so it looks like AoE attacks will be back to being useful again. The third one is Big Bang Present. It's a full AoE attack with blunt and pierce damage this time, and has S power as well, but the cost is 14 because she does not hurt her friends this time. It's Christmas and she's hurting her friends. Makes no sense, Misty, but you are a villain, so I understand that. So if you want to use Big Bang Present, it's just for those events that have only one wave, or when you are using 2 characters, and when you want the different elements. But even now, 14 BP for S doesn't look that great. Remember, Rick, he had a 13 full AoE attack with double element and S power as well. Why do we have such a high cost? After she uses Big Bang Present, she cannot use anything else, not even from Inheritance. And she does have a 5 BP AoE attack with Ground Bash that could have been used because it still has Blunt. They should have decreased this to 12 so that this could be possible, but they did not. So she's just a one and done with Big Bang Present. But people will be using her for Dark Vortex Flash for farming anyway, and just for events. And for Inheritance, well, you could just open with Big Bang Star if you want as well. If there's just one wave and it's just a boss, she's gonna do very good damage because it's a 4S attack with high modifier with 100% damage increase. And if you like to use the first version of Misty in boss fights, she has been outclassed many times now, but if you like the character, you can inherit Tree Fall because this is free and can debuff endurance. And just remember, characters like Misty Creator and others do physical damage, so debuffing the endurance of the enemy will increase the damage output, but not by much. And like I said, this Misty is outclassed anyway, it's just there. So this Misty is very simplistic and she is very limited in her own design, can farm well, but is limited to events, and because of that I will just be giving her a plain SS grade. As a farmer, she will be easily demoted in the future and is a less interesting character and not even worth a pity if you are too close to, because you can save gens and try your luck in some other banner. Unless you are a fan of the character, because if you are, that's okay, summon for your faves. The next version of Misty is again more useful for boss fights. She can debuff, she can do good damage, she can use defense boost, she can apply passives to the party that will buff their agility, intelligence, love, and charm, and has heat up to get stronger within time, but does not need any inheritance from the farming version of Misty. Current version of Misty. Now back to the banner image. Is this banner worth summoning for? Well, yes, I will be giving this a Silver Plus award, but you can still skip if you want. First of all, you need to understand that damage dealers are easier to outclass, and the game is moving super fast with power creep now, and we will eventually get to a point where damage dealers offer something else as well, like even party support. This one does not, so it will be easier for them to be replaced. But right now in the game they are very strong and will help people that miss out on their damage types. But if you do have Mirza, and if you are still happy with your Leon, if you have Chooser, it's kinda easy to skip this banner and look into the future later. Misty offers very low value, so she is actually here to decrease the value of the banner. But if you are a fan of Sumire and Asellus, it's pretty okay to summon here, and they will be strong enough for quite some time and help you with clearing challenges or remembrance. I decided to skip because I am happy with the characters that I have, and I do believe that it will be better to pull for support units in the future, and they may be releasing Razan since they are releasing the episode number 12 from story mode, so it's getting closer and closer for a character that will be a little more interesting for many. But that is my opinion. What is yours? Please say here on the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you still haven't, and if you want to support the channel, there are links in the description. We are trying to achieve this monthly goal to keep the channel alive, and I hope to see you soon in the next video. Bye!